Welcome to the Jill on Money Show. It's Monday, September 11th. And before we start answering your financial questions, we always like to take a moment to think about 9/11 and where you were. So, Mark, I'm going to ask you to come on the air and say, where were you on September 11th in the World Trade Center fiasco and horrendous murder of innocents?
Yeah, hard to believe. 22 years ago. My goodness. I don't know where time goes. But I was in Phoenix, Arizona, working the local market there.
Really? Was it weird to be a New Yorker out of New York? Because it was for me. I was out of New York also. I was living in New England, and it was just awful.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I remember I woke up that morning to back in those days, you still had answering machines to, landlines. And I woke up because of time difference. I woke up to a message, I think it was from my sister saying, like, don't worry, Dad's okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because, my father at that point was working in the city. Obviously, shortly thereafter, turned on the TV, saw what was happening. But he was stuck for hours upon hours because they shut everything down. He was stuck up on the GW bridge. He managed, he was able to get out of the city and onto the bridge. And then they shut everything down and he was stuck there for a while.
Oh, we didn't know where my father was for a while. And it was a little scary because he was on the board of the American Stock Exchange at the time. So there was this thought of like, oh my God, was he downtown? Was he at Trinity Place? Was there a meeting? What was going on? And it was so scary because you just couldn't get through on any. And then, finally later that afternoon, much later, my father calls and goes, what's your problem? I'm fine. Like that. What's your problem? And I said, thanks. He goes, well, I was on the golf course. That's where he was. But it was so surreal. Jackie had just purchased the apartment. She had no cable. She was waiting for the cable guy to come on September 11th. And so she went out on one of those piers that goes straight out into the Hudson. And she said that she remembers she was there with a whole bunch of people and they watched the second tower come down. And everyone was crying. It was so awful. I know it's weird. It's like 22 years, I could go back in an instant. I know exactly where I was. I remember who I was watching on TV. I remember, sorry, CBS, but I was watching the Today Show, and I remember how amazing Katie Couric was on the air, like just in a disaster and talking to people. And I remember Maria Bartiromo, before she went off the ledge and went nuts where she is now, doing great work for CNBC on the ground around Wall Street. It was astounding, really was.
I don't know about you, but for me, it seems like it was yesterday. And as I sit here and talk to you, I'm looking at my refrigerator, and I have on the fridge. I have an old picture of me as a 13-year-old on top of the South Tower.
Oh.
But Theo always asks, who is that? Who's that in the picture?
All right. Well, listen, think about September 11th. Think about people that perished, and think about those folks in Pennsylvania, those brave people that were just blindsided, just absolutely blindsided by it. And it was a pretty, I never remember a time where it was scarier to be in New York. I remember the exchange was closed for like 5 days. It was insanity. I remember when they rang the bell, I could cry right now. When they rang the bell on the New York Stock Exchange, that first session after the fact, it was unbelievable. It really was. Okay.
Usually it's me. Today it's you.
I know. I mean, September 11th doesn't do it. I don't know what will. It's usually about my dogs. Okay. Let us move on. Okay. All right. I could cry at anything. I cry at the movies, everything.
That's why we get along. Two weepers.
I know, we're both crybabies. Weepers. Weepas. It reminds me, there was one of those like The Amazing Race, one of those shows or something, one of those like funny shows. And one of the guys was a crier, and he was on the phone with his wife, and she's like, "Are you crying again?" Oh gosh. All right. Now take a deep breath. We're moving on. Okay, very good. So we're here to try to take the mystery out of your financial life. And if you would like to join us on the air live, just go to jillonmoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and check the box that says you want to come on the air. Also, while you're there, sign up for the free weekly newsletter, subscribe to our news service, Jill on Money Live. I'm talking to you a week away from the next event. We're actually recording this in advance. And Mark, I'm going to send a text rather, to Nate today because I have anxiety that he's not going to show up. But if hopefully, gosh willing, I will say that Nate is going to join us. That's Nate Burleson, who is the co-anchor of CBS Mornings. He's also a studio analyst for CBS, the NFL Today show. And hopefully he joins us in 2 days for our awesome webinar. You can only take part in that webinar if you are a subscriber to Jill on Money Live. So check that out. All right, Mark, let's get to a caller listener. Let's talk to Anne, who's on the line from Ohio. Hello, Anne. How are you? What can we do for you?
Hello. Good. Thank you so much for taking my call. I love your show and your books. I am trying to figure out what to do next in my life. When I wrote, I was deciding whether to leave a job that had been cut to part-time, but I have done that already.
Bye-bye, she says. Anne says, bye-bye, don't let that door hit me on the way out. How old are you, Anne?
I'm only 54.
Did you hate the job or did you like the job? Like what's the nature of the circumstances under which you were like, I'm out of here?
I loved some aspects of the job, but the leadership structure had changed and it was incompatible. And I'd been cut to part-time and I've also moved. So it's also an hour commute each way. And without the benefits and only 3 days and the hassle, it wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah. Goodbye. So my question to you is, have you had any luck getting a new job since you've leaving the other one?
I have not been looking too hard. I'm taking some time. I've only done music and teaching, and that's what I've been doing for the past 14 years. And we're building a new house a little further out, and my parents need some help, so I've been doing all of that type of thing.
Who's the we in that?
I do have a partner. We are not married.
Okay.
We are talking about it, so that's in the question right now. I think right now we're looking at I'd like to make sure I'm safe. I've been divorced about 5 years, sold the family house. Kids are out and grown and independent. So lots of changes in the last 5 years. Wow.
Very exciting. So let's talk a little bit about what you have accumulated at your age 54. Oh, and one other question when we talk about that. So you have a partner, you're not married. Do you keep all of your financial lives? Do you keep everything separate or is there a combination here?
We have currently been keeping things separate. Little gun shy after divorce about making sure that if anything happens to this relationship that I can still, carry on and take care of myself.
Good.
The new house we are sharing. I have invested some in the new house.
All right, that's good. So let's talk about, first of all, what you have in terms of your retirement savings.
Okay. So I have about $414,000 in retirement accounts. 178 in a 401k, and then I just rolled over an old teaching account into a regular IRA. So there's about 40,000 in that, 187 in a Roth, and a little bit in a TSA annuity that I got when I first started teaching that has just sat there, and I don't know what to do with that. So
okay,
that's only about 8,000.
All right, but that's all part of the 414. So
yes.
The only part that has been taxed, the 187 of the Roth, right?
Right.
Okay, great. How about non-retirement? What do you got there? Just a brokerage account, anything like that?
Yep. I have about 670 in non-retirements. I have 8,000 in an HSA. I have 11,000 in iBond. I have 25 in CDs. I have about 140 in cash, but we were kind of saving about 80,000 of that to help finish the house.
Okay.
I have 90,000 in Exxon. That was part of the divorce settlement, so it has a 1965 stock basis, and 407 in a Vanguard brokerage.
Hold on a second. Wait a minute. You said there was you said 670,000, right? The Vanguard brokerage, is that included in that?
That's included in that.
Oh, come on. I was so excited to write plus.
Sorry.
That's all right. So ExxonMobil stock has a very low cost basis. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. And you mentioned kids. They're adults. How old are they?
One is 22 and the other is 26.
And they're doing okay on their own?
They are doing great, and Dad has enough money to help them if they need it.
Fabulous. You only got divorced 5 years ago. Is there any sort of anything else left in this divorce? Like, do you have any sort of payments that you're making or your ex is making to you, or is that not on the table?
No, that is on the table, and that's why I'm not rushed into getting a job. I have $50,000 in alimony that I get until I'm 65, whether I'm married or not, and that basically covers all of my expenses. So,
what?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
Boy.
I live pretty cheaply. It feels kind of tight,
Yeah.
but I can do it.
Yeah. But you got 50 grand a year. That's obviously taxable to you.
Right.
And that's the only income you have right now, right?
At this point, yes. So I was looking at I need to know what other type of job I need to determine what income I need to bring in to make sure I can retire.
Well, you can do this very easily, I presume, which is like, if you know that it's tight, what are your actual expenses on a monthly basis? I mean, it must be, I don't know, is it $4,000 a month?
I think that I have total with the taxes. I've been spending about $48,000 a year.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah.
And maybe you need a little more. So whatever you could all right. So that's fine. So it's basically, if after taxes, you're not clearing that 50. So are you spending down some of your cash? No, not at all.
$50,000 takes care of everything, including the taxes.
What are your deductions right now? Do you own a home right now?
No.
Only income. Well, wait a minute. You have the alimony, and then we have money that is generated from your cash and your non-qualified account. If I looked at your tax return, do you have any idea what your adjusted gross income was last year?
Looking at my tax return from last year, my gross was $70,000 basically. The past couple of years, I've been plowing everything from my job into the 401k and just living on the alimony.
Tell us a little bit about the new house.
Well, my partner's dream has been to build a house himself, so we're mostly doing it ourselves. So we were figuring out how to spray paint the whole house last night. So
nice.
We've hired some people for things, but mostly doing it ourselves. So it takes a while, and it's kind of as it goes.
Okay. And so where are you living right now? In a house another house that he owns?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And is he like, don't pay me rent or don't pay me? Are you paying any of the expenses or not really?
We are. We're splitting the expenses.
Okay. And is he retired?
No, he's 5 years older.
And he's happy working, making a lot of money, I hope?
He's pretty happy working, making about $90,000.
And do you think he'll work straight through to, I don't know, 62, 65? What do you think?
He was originally hoping to work till 70, but, you know, as you get older, the people at work kind of get a little less happy with you. You start to cost a lot of money.
Ageism. How dare you be old and know what you're doing?
I know.
How dare you? God. And show up every day.
Exactly.
Terrible. Okay. So this is interesting. It's a very interesting situation. Do you want to understand whether or not you can just never work again and just live on your alimony till age 65? Your alimony is not adjusted for inflation or anything. It's just a straight dollar amount, right?
Right.
Okay. And so is the question, do I have to go back to work, or how much do I have to go to make, or what do you think?
I believe I have to go back to work. I was looking at the Vanguard retirement planners. I was putting in that if I lived on $60,000 a year in retirement, that I would need to make about $10,000 more at least.
Yeah. I mean, the first number that came up for me as you were walking through the expenses and what was going on was 10 or 15,000. But, you know, like, that's not terrible, especially because you're so young. You know, I don't know if there's anything else you can do. You said music, right?
Yes.
Music and teaching. Were our two things?
Those were the two things.
Can you make, $1,000 a month teaching music to pathetic little children?
I would have to see. I teach strings, and so, band's a lot more popular than strings, but that would be one of the things I'd be looking into, or some tutoring, or just a, hourly job. What's
the hardest string instrument to play?
Ooh, that depends who you're talking to.
I'm talking to you, girl.
I'm going for violin.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the difference between playing the violin and the viola in terms of difficulty?
The violin usually has a lot more notes to play, so they play a lot fancier, harder parts. The viola plays more of the harmony, and so the difficulty is fitting in and providing the harmony, and then sometimes bumping up to the melody.
Mark, do you think this is hysterical that I'm asking this? It just so happens my girlfriend is a musician, and I just asked her this question because she always throws the symphony channel on in the car, and I'm like, what is the difference? Like what? And she didn't really know. So you are now answering a question which I can report back, which is fantastic. All right. Do you feel comfortable being able to go out and make 10 or 15 grand doing something?
I think so.
I think if you do that, you'll be fine. I really do. And here's a couple of things to consider. So any money that you have, like you mentioned this old TSA, I mean, just as much as possible, we'd like to consolidate everything. While you're still just making 50 grand a year, maybe what I might do, because you are cash heavy, I would do a few things while you're still in this low tax bracket. One is I would think about looking at my brokerage account and see if there are any losses in that account. And if there are, you can sell some of the ExxonMobil stock and you can take the gain versus the losses. Don't do it if it's just all gain. If it's all gains, it's not worth doing it for you. But it's just something to think about, right? Like, oh, you know what? I can kind of maneuver this. This is called tax loss harvesting. And you can do that and also maybe smooth out some of your allocation because you're very heavy in ExxonMobil, obviously. So that's one thing to think about. The next thing to consider is that, even if we have this 80 grand in cash, right, that's going to go to the house, that still leaves you 60 in cash, right? And the question becomes, should you convert some of your pre-tax $300 to something dollars, $100,000 or not into a Roth? I'm a little hesitant about that because you don't have that much cash. So I am more inclined to say this, that let's see how things go. If you don't spend all of that $80,000 on the house, or your cash starts accumulating because you're not making $10,000 a year, you're making $20,000 a year, then I might do some conversions. I really might. But I just would be careful not to deplete your cash. I think that having that 60 grand is probably 50, 60 is a good number for you to have. Now, the only other question I have for you is if you do get married, you said like maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. Right now, the idea of you guys getting married, let's see, he makes 90, you have 50 and let's call it 60. It's not terrible. He's probably pretty close to a 22. The worst case scenario is that like you're in the 22% tax bracket. It's not bad together. You don't have like a massive marriage penalty. But how are you getting your health insurance right now?
Right now, they say I have 90 days to COBRA it. So I'm looking into, Obamacare or COBRA, or that would be one of the benefits of getting married.
Right. Sort of like a very marriage kind of thing. Like, well, let's get married for the health insurance. Well, you can get COBRA. How much is COBRA out of pocket for you?
They have not given me the information on that. I think I'm estimating.
I'm going to guess $1,000 a month, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was about 10,000.
Okay.
A year.
I mean, you can compare that with the marketplace, and you can check that out, or you can just go on COBRA, just have it. You have it for 18 months, right? And you can decide what to do going forward, and that way you don't have to disrupt any of your doctors or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's fine. Now, when you said that your expenses are about, let's call it 50 or 60,000, were you including the health insurance in that or not?
I think I can make it work, including the health insurance in that.
Okay. I like you getting a little job, especially while he is working. You mentioned you have a mom, though. Does mom require any money from you to support her?
Luckily not. So they are doing well financially. They just need time and help. All
right. What else do I need to know about you? What we've talked about a whole bunch of things. What else do you need to know?
So basically, I'll be okay if I only earn 10 to 15, that you don't think I need to go out and get an actual real job that pays about as much as I had.
No, I don't think you do. Mark, do you agree with that? Can she make, I mean, you just got to keep up. You have to keep pace with inflation. If all of a sudden your expenses start skyrocketing and it's not 60 grand or 50 grand, it's 100,000, then you have to go get a job. But I think it's not that bad the way that you've laid it out.
She doesn't spend a lot, and she's got, she basically has a pension until she's 65.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think it works darn well. Thank you very much. So, and you want to delay taking that Social Security. And I think that you're in very good shape. You really are. So I feel like, you can do this. And if you don't kind of get married, don't get married. Just do what's comfortable for you. Okay. There's there's no gun to your head at all. All right.
Documents. I know you always ask about that. I don't have my documents in order. I do have beneficiaries and transfer on death on everything.
Oh, that's good. But you should have. But what about a nice will that says what? Like,
right,
what's going to happen?
I got the NOLA will maker a couple years ago. Is that worth doing, or do I really need to go to a professional?
Well, first of all, you obviously will do that if you get married. Okay, you will absolutely must. I wouldn't mind if you have like the NOLO and it's like a placeholder, that's fine. You can go to like a local attorney who will draft a will, a simple will that is it's just like a placeholder. And if you, maybe that there would be a reason to do this simply because the new home will be in his name or your name jointly.
We haven't decided how that works out best.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that if you have equity in the home, then maybe that's something that you say, okay, the home we should own jointly with rights of survivorship. So if he were to die, you inherit it. And if you were to die, he would inherit it. And that comes outside of your estate. And everything else goes to the kids. But, listen, importantly, I would say that you also need a healthcare proxy. You need a durable power of attorney. So, if you have those documents, okay, it would be wonderful if you could just, ask a friend. Does anyone have a good estate attorney? Just, ask around a little bit. It's sort of a tighter way to do it, especially in a second relationship. Make sense?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for clearing up the viola versus violin issue in my household. I very much appreciate it. And we wish you the best of luck. Stay in touch. Way to reset, girl. Way to go. So if you, like Anne, are contemplating something big in your life, a transition, first of all, you should buy my book, The Great Money Reset. But second, get in touch with us. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and let us know if you want to come on the air live. It's really much better when we can talk things through with you. So do that. And while you're on the website, check out all the other great content. Lift someone up, change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.